A fire drill at work today reminded me of something that's really important in podcasting. Today, I'm going to share that story and what I learned from that experience. What's happening, podcasters? This is 1000 Podcasters, and I'm Brian Ensminger. I'm a podcaster and a podcast editor, and I want to see you be successful with your podcast. National Podcast Post Month is all over now, but I'm still working through David Hooper's 30-Day Solo Podcast Challenge. This is day 29, I think, of that challenge. So I've got today and maybe 1 or 2 days more. You can find David Hooper's solo podcast challenge at bigpodcast.com. Links for that are in the episode notes. Today, I had an experience that I want to share with you because I think it applies to podcasting. In fact, most things in life can be applied to podcasting, but this one was a fire drill. I had a fire drill at work today that reminded me of the power of perspective, because in all truthfulness, our expectations and our perspective can shape the kinds of experiences that we have. This applies to life as well as podcasting. So what happened? It was after lunch. I'd actually gone to a little bit of an early lunch, and after lunch, I was at my desk and I was working on some analysis, just the normal things that I have to do. It was a little bit chilly, so I had a light jacket on, and I was working at my desk and listening to some music. I think I was listening to Scary Pockets, something like that. And the fire alarm went off at work. Now, for a little bit of backstory, we had a fire alarm test probably 2 months ago. And then about a month ago, the fire alarm went off again. We assumed it was a test, but it was actually a burst pipe. And so my expectation was this was probably the same thing. It was either a poorly planned test when it was really cold outside, or it was some kind of failure of the system. So that's kind of what my perspective was going into this. So I grabbed another jacket. I didn't have a heavy coat with me today, so I grabbed a second jacket and threw that on, and I headed into the stairs with everybody else. And it's almost like a group of people trying to board a Southwest flight. It was a little bit of slow traffic, and we got down the stairs, got outside, and then we had to walk the planned route to the muster area. It was kind of like a little bit of organized chaos. We've done this more than once, so we're getting better at it, but it's still a little bit time consuming. You've got to go out there, and it's cold out. And not North Dakota cold, but it was cold out, and I haven't been feeling very well. I've talked about this a couple times. Thankfully, I'm starting to feel better, but I was concerned because I was going outside with a couple of light jackets on, but I didn't have a heavy jacket at all. I was concerned that I was going to get sick, and I can feel it in my throat right now, so that might come true. And then we'd been out there for probably 10 or 15 minutes, and the crowd of people, there's probably 300 people out there, all started moving back in, and then somebody hollered from the building, "Hey, it's too early, you can't go back yet." And I was really starting to get bummed, but I stopped just like everybody else because they weren't going to let us in. And I noticed that there was another group of people near me, a couple of people that I know and some people that I don't. And some of these people had on heavy coats and some of them didn't. Some of them actually didn't have on any coat. So clearly they had either been eating lunch or had been in a meeting. And because of the fire alarm, they weren't able to go back to their desk. But they were outside just like me. No heavy jacket, not even a light jacket, and they were just hanging out, joking, and have a good time. Meanwhile, I'm grumpy. I'm thinking about how I'm concerned I might get sick. The conditions that we were in were the same. In fact, their conditions are arguably worse because they didn't have on any kind of jacket. However, their perspective and their approach was different. Very clearly, I had the attitude of a glass half empty. I was not happy. I mean, I wasn't angry, but I wasn't happy. They, on the other hand, were just laughing and having a good time. And that's when I was reminded that perspective makes all the difference. And it also made it clear for me that, at least as it relates to fire alarms, I've got a little bit of personal work to do. However, this also applies to our podcasts. And I told you that it would, because the same kind of thing happens. Our perspectives as podcasters shape the kinds of experiences that we have. If we go into a podcast with unrealistic expectations or expecting everything to be really, really poor and looking for those kinds of things, then we will very likely have those kinds of experiences. However, if we go into podcasting and decide that we are going to make the most of it, regardless of the kinds of situations that we find ourselves in, that's the kind of experience that we're going to have. My hope is that for you, you will have the kind of experience that those people that were having fun out at the out waiting to get back in the building, the kind of experience that they had with your podcast, and that you won't get stuck in the kind of experiences that I was having, where I was concerned about myself and just a little bit bummed. So that's my hope for you, that you will have that kind of experience. How about you, though? Have you ever noticed in your experience with podcasting how your perspective shapes your experiences? Not just your perception, but the actual experiences. I'd love to hear your story about how you've noticed this working in your life, whether for good or not so good. Share your story in the comments. You'll find that at toptieraudio.com/84. You can find me at toptieraudio.com. That's where you can subscribe to this show as well as the YouTube channel. So if you'd like to get tutorials and stuff like that, all of that is at toptieraudio.com, as well as ways to connect with me on social media, ways to set up a consultation or to talk to me about editing a show, all of that, toptieraudio.com. Thanks so much for listening. Now go out there and make a great podcast.